As you said, there's a lot of things in space. According to the European Space Agency, over 130 million objects between 1 millimeter and 1 centimeter are drifting around Earth, revolving at a speed exceeding 17,000 miles per hour. Although this is space junk, evolved into projectiles as a pollutant and poses a threat to astronauts and active satellites. What makes space traffic in LEO and GEO today's most critical challenge?
I agree technically it's possible to do a better job with space debris and space junk. However, we've proven time and time again as humanity that we're great at finding things to make dumping grounds and hoping it's not a problem. We don't want what's going on in the oceans right now to be going on in space. I always try to bring this back to why does a normal person care about any of this? I don't think the normal person understands that every transaction they make touches a space asset. Other things that they do in their everyday life, all of the vehicles, the internet, all the things that make their creature comforts happen touch a space asset now. All of those assets that make that possible are at risk. And if the nations of the world don't want to enforce any sort of safe rules of operation, this is just the beginning of those types of problems. We can track it. We can start to engineer things that control it, but we have to actually become better stewards of that. We used to launch things in orbit and say, well, as long as it comes back in 20 years, it can float around, it's fine. Now we're like, well, now if it comes back in 5 years, then that's okay. But is it? I don't know. We're going to see a shift over the next few years because more of these astronauts having to hunker down at space stations and hope they don't get hit is not going to be an acceptable way to operate in low Earth orbit for too much longer.
I want to add to what Jeff said. It's not only your bank transactions, which we all know by now, that will be affected. But if you look at how addicted we became to GPS, it's not just the location, but it's also the timing signal that comes from GPS. And so the electric grid will stop. Every commerce transaction will stop. Your phone will stop working, not just the map. Your phone itself will stop working. We will be back to the Stone Ages if we were to lose GPS, which is basically implied if we have one of these collision events in the wrong orbit. It can get really, really bad. Having said that, space is massive. It's huge, right? It's not complete chaos yet, but I think we really need to start working on that.
Our adversaries also know how addicted we are to our creature comforts as a human race, especially in the United States. And I don't think we're going to have to wait for a random object in orbit to do something to our critical infrastructure. So it's going to become incumbent on us to start protecting that stuff sooner rather than later.